fellas.
Hey, how's it going? You're
look.
Chevy's agent, aren't you?
That's right, Chevy Chase. I hear another SNL movie is coming around the horn, and I don't know. Well, I'm sure you guys know Chevy Chase, major SNL alum. I'm assuming you just forgot to call, and you've got some big role for America's Sweetheart. I'm here to find out what it is.
Casting just got a little ahead of us, so there's really not. We're pretty much full up right now. We'll get him on the next one. We'll get him on, Church Lady the movie or whatever.
Yeah, we were actually kind of trying to keep the cast as expansive. We're trying to get as many generations of SNL into the movie.
Open it up.
It's not just going to be just
So,
original cast. I mean, of course, we've got Dan and Jane because they've, they originated the whole thing, and we've actually managed to, work Laraine in with a nice cameo because she can't. Obviously, she's not going to play the daughter, right? I mean, and Chevy couldn't play the daughter. Obviously, that'd be ridiculous.
Okay, but sure. But surely you could fit like one more original cast member in a little cameo, even if it's like 5 seconds, like some beloved cast member, huh?
Oh, that's right. We got to give Garrett Morris a call.
Exactly. Yeah. Get him on the phone. I love
Garrett
that,
Morris,
man. Yeah. I can't say enough good things about Garrett Morris.
Oh yeah.
Okay, come on. Guys, I somehow I got a copy of the script. I don't know how. It doesn't even look like it's finished. Oh, wait. No, it says finished. Okay, whatever. I'm looking through, and there's a role here. The High Master. That could be fun for Chevy. What SNL alum are you going to get to play him, huh?
Dave Thomas.
Yes, Dave Thomas. When we said SNL, we also included SCTV.
Because, I mean, Lauren, he wants to bridge not just the generational gaps of SNL, but he wants to bring in, like, the SCTV, the guys who really, did the nuts and bolts stuff to kind of carry on that spirit of Saturday Night Live, and even in a brighter fashion on SCTV. So, and he's a fellow Canadian. Lauren loves helping out his fellow Canadians.
Yes,
okay,
and
guys.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Okay, guys, listen. I get it. I get his reputation. I'm not dumb. I know he's not the easiest guy to work with. So work with me here. You have a villain in this movie and a sniveling sidekick even to that villain. I mean, either one of those, you're playing into the Chase oeuvre.
You're going to love it because we got Michael McKean because he's part of the new, and David Spade as well. I mean, it bridges generational gaps while using current cast members. And you know what? We even went out of our way to get that Farley kid in there because that guy's hilarious. I think he's going to be the next John Belushi.
Okay. You know what? Wait. Hang on a second. Hello. Just 1 second, guys. Hang tight. Hello.
All right. Got nothing to do anyway.
Oh, man. You know what? It's been a delight meeting with you, but I just found out I don't need you guys anymore. Chevy and I just hit the big time, baby. They gave him his very own talk show. Next, Johnny Carson. Money, roll on in. Beep, beep, beep.
Oh, yeah. That'll last more than 8 episodes.
It's going to suck, but this is going to be great.
When I pick a movie, that's when I'm under pressure now. The question always comes back to me, what were they thinking now? Whoa, what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Welcome to an unintentional theme week here, or theme 2 weeks here on What Were They Thinking, a podcast where we talk about bad to questionable movies. Yes, we're again talking about Aliens as we talked about Mac and Me last week. I am, of course, Brendan, your co-host, one of your co-hosts, and joining me is the primate to my Beldar.
Yeah, those are gibberish words.
Is the Jane Curtin to my Dan Aykroyd.
Okay.
Nathan, what up, pal?
Man, never had I ever thought I would long for the sweet embrace of Mac and Me. This movie, I like to do a little subtitle whenever I start taking my notes for these, and this one is Coneheads. Christ help us.
Oh, wow.
Even our Lord and Savior could do nothing to save us from this thing.
It's enough to turn a man atheist, you might say. And joining us, and you can strike all your fervor at our guest, as he did once again suggest a movie for us. But joining us is the most from the West Coast, the man with the plan, our
intergalactic specialist.
Yes, the Galen Howard.
Hey guys, what's happening?
What's up, jerks?
What's up, jerks? Oh, different show. Sorry.
They're not gonna type on their style.
Galen, you're here to talk about Coneheads with us.
Yes,
this is a film
correct,
that you. Sir. This is an episode that I said, hey Galen, what'd be a good summer movie to
summer
do
blockbuster
if you come back? Summer blockbuster.
Exactly.
And pretty quickly.
And still recovering from the delirious fever dream of Comp and a Half, I suggested Coneheads.
Coneheads, yes.
I blame Comp and a Half, as we can blame most everything, most travesties of the world lie at the feet of Comp and a Half. So and then the rest of them at Coneheads. So
I would say that Comp and a Half is a subtler, more nuanced comedy.
More nuanced film, yes, far less problematic and less corruptive for children.
Right.
I would say Cop and a Half has more situations where I understand that they're making different jokes rather than one joke for 90 minutes, 82 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
This film feels like someone wrote the outline in 5 minutes while on cocaine, then gave it to 30 different people, and each person wrote their own scene, not with no knowledge of what anyone else was doing.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say this movie felt like somebody set gonorrhea to celluloid.
That too. That works. That works too.
Both things can be correct.
I'm sure at least one of those writers had gonorrhea.
Wow, that's a wild accusation. Are you saying that Bonnie Turner had gonorrhea?
Oh, no.
He's on record here,
writers,
folks.
Yeah. I could also believe that this script gave someone gonorrhea.
Co-creator of That 70s Show, Bonnie Turner has gonorrhea, says Galen Howard, famed actor / comedian.
It's up on TMZ right now.
/ performer.
I never directly accused Bonnie Turner. I'm sure she's a lovely person.
/man / angel / soul. I'm continuing to add to your resume.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad someone is.
You forgot podcast regular.
Podcast regular. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about Coneheads.
Yes. So I did want to kind of know. I mean, what's your history with Coneheads? Did you watch this thing when it came out?
Absolutely none. I remember I wanted to see it, and I think by this point, after having sat through Cop and a Half, my parents were no longer taking suggestions from me for movies to watch.
Good on them.
So good on them. So I was not able to convince them to see Coneheads.
So did they have?
But I do feel like this is a movie I would have enjoyed as an 11-year-old.
Oh yeah, I'm just imagining your parents now being like, oh, you know what? Put it in the suggestion box. We'll take a look. We'll shake it up real good. Maybe one day.
Mom, that's a paper shredder.
No, it's okay. We'll still see it. You put it in, you just hear that.
Yes. Just like all the tiny pieces that somehow assembled to make this movie.
I did get to see this when it was first released on video.
Oh, wow.
And you're still here.
Yeah, well, at the time...
Well, you were a teenager, right?
Yeah, I was just really... No, I was a teenager at that point, because I would have hit my teens in, 91.
Right.
So... I definitely I would have rented this because I was really getting into Saturday Night Live because of Wayne's World.
Exactly.
Dana Carvey was hilarious, and the Comedy Network up here at the time was actually rerunning old episodes of SNL, so I was getting kind of caught up on some of the stuff that I wasn't able to watch when it was first aired. And I'd seen the Coneheads sketches, and I knew Dan Aykroyd was a very funny man, or at least I thought he was until I got involved with this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, they made Wayne's World movie, went to see it, great, loved it.
Fantastic.
So now they're gonna start making all these other Saturday Night Live movies. It's like, oh, this is great. And, Coneheads, that's hilarious. Dan Aykroyd's funny. Jane Curtin, she's hilarious. I can't wait. Oh man, even at that young impressionable age, I was like, this is garbage. Like, they told all the jokes in the first 10 minutes
and then retold them again and again and again.
Yeah.
Well, folks, so if you don't, my history with Coneheads is I saw this movie once, I think only a few years ago, because I think I must have seen it earlier in life, but like didn't remember anything. So I said, you know what? It's always got this reputation as like this, this movie that flopped, and one of those notorious, like, not the most notorious, we haven't talked about It's Pat yet, but one of the most notorious like SNL, sketches to movies. And I thought, well, I mean, let's give it a shot. And I remember watching it a couple years ago and just being like, yeah, it's pretty bad. So that's pretty much my only history with this. But before we go too much further, let's go into what can barely be described as the plot. I'm going to just briefly break it down. Brent, if you please.
Plot.
Thank you. So the movie concerns a family of aliens, Beldar and Primat, played by Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, who they're in the middle of a mission to attack Earth, but unfortunately they crash into Earth and are forced to assume the roles of a family, just a middle-class suburban family. Primat is expecting. She's with Cone, as she says, yes. Which is like treated as like a major laugh line. Because I think, I'll wait till we get to it a bit more. But yeah, she's with Cone. She's with child, and eventually they have their daughter Connie, played by Michelle Burke, not Laraine Newman like the sketches, which is fair. I mean, Laraine Newman is quite a bit older at this point. Hard for her to play like a 17-year-old daughter. But they're also dealing with Michael McKean and David Spade, who work for, I guess, like immigration. That's like it'd be like if Donald Trump worked for immigration. Like there's some pretty
literally is
horrible people. Yeah, yeah, and had like no rule book. They're also dealing with Connie, their daughter, is dealing with guys at school, including Chris Farley, who's always nice to see, even if it's in a movie like this. Mm-hmm. And they just kind of go through their lives. There's not really much of a plot until about an hour and 2 minutes into this 82-minute movie. So here we go. Hilarity ensues.
Oh, they wished.
Mm.
So guys, this is bad.
It's not great. It's not great.
It's not great. But there are so many like familiar faces in this movie.
Everybody's in this movie.
Yes. Yeah, this is like North level cameos.
Oh yeah, like every single scene where there's a new character, it's like, oh, Michael Richards. Oh, Jan Hooks. Oh,
Adam
Michael
Sandler.
McKean. Yeah, Adam Sandler playing the least Adam Sandler-ish role I've ever seen him play.
He's
outside
not bad.
of like Punch Drunk Love.
Right. Or Uncut Gems.
One of his dramatic turns.
I actually think Punch Drunk Love is just one of his comedy characters just turned a little bit.
Right.
I thought it was weird him
this
playing
is in
like
that going in that direction. He
Reign over me then.
Exactly. Yes. And because of that, this scene is slightly watchable.
Well, it's weird because like Adam Sandler in this movie, and I know we're jumping to the Adam Sandler scene, but Adam Sandler is
it's one of the few bright lights in the because it's not the same joke.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
Right.
well, there's
It's dynamic. Yeah.
They got that nice
there's an actual
fast-paced
character
dialogue going on.
Yeah, there's an actual character there and not just a soulless vehicle for the same tired joke.
Well, because at some
And
point,
Sinbad.
Adam Sandler comes into the movie as like this guy who's basically going to get Beldar like a fake ID, essentially a fake.
Yes. He helps them
security
assume the family name DeChico.
Yeah, Donald DeChico is going to be his name. And he's doing this thing where he's like, what's your name? And he's like, Donald DeChico. And he's like, oh, hey, it's Donnie. I haven't seen you in a while. Like he's doing that kind of thing the whole time. It's just, it worked. Like it wasn't a bad scene or anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad scene or anything. It just struck me as like, oh, this is early Adam Sandler because they don't quite know what to do with him yet.
They don't know quite what to do with him. They probably let him improvise that whole scene as much as Dan Aykroyd would allow.
Not once did he utter the phrase "shabba-da-da-doo."
Right. Yeah.
Your name now is Habago. I would have. You know what they should have just done?
Adam, could you please just stick to the script? You know I don't like that.
Well, maybe that's something I should have been told yesterday.
You know what? Fuck
save
it.
that for another film.
SNL should have just made a movie based on the Hurley Boy. Just that dumb, like 4-minute sketch of Farley yelling and Sandler asking if he can watch someone's house. Just make that into a movie.
Or Opera Man.
Opera Man. I would watch that. That might actually have
Opera Man
potential.
the movie? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, based on what I've heard, there's a series on YouTube right now where Conan and Kevin Nealon and Dana Carvey are reading the Hans and Franz movie that never got made. And based on that script, it actually sounds pretty great. Like it actually sounds like it would have been really funny if it had been what this script was.
Wow.
So,
but anyway,
where is the blame? Whose feet is it laid at? Would you say this or It's Pat?
Well,
the reason why that movie never got made.
I will never watch It's Pat. So
I feel like It's Pat was before this, so I think Coneheads is the blame because they put a lot of money.
It's Pat was 94. This was the after following the success of Wayne's World. This was the first of the slate of SNL sketch inspired films.
But I think It's Pat though was not a lot of stock was put into it, not a lot of budget. Whereas I think Coneheads, they put a lot of money.
$30 million.
What was it?
$30 million.
$30 million is just the production budget though. Because think about the marketing for this movie.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere. I couldn't go to this is Canadian aging me, but I couldn't go to the It store without seeing a wall of Conehead shirts or mugs or what have you. It was the same thing they did when Wayne's World came out.
Well, and the cross promotion they had with Subway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That they show. It's funny because they show them eating Subway in the movie, and I'm like, oh, this is where the relationship starts.
Right.
Because they had because I even had for the longest time, and then I threw it out because it was getting too gross. But I had a Subway Coneheads cup that I found, and. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was not in great condition, but yeah, they put a huge amount of money into this movie, and it bombed. Like it did really poorly in theaters, so much so that SNL even made fun of it themselves. Like they did sketches like making fun of it. They did a sketch called The New Coneheads, and it was like them basically like making fun of themselves trying to modernize Coneheads. They had one of them wearing like a clock around their neck like Flava Flav. They had David Spade coming out and saying like, listen, we got all this Coneheads merch, we gotta unload it, okay? We didn't make our money back.
I have questions about the timings in this movie.
Okay.
Because this is, you said 92?
93, summer of 93.
Okay, summer of 93, not as catchy as the summer of 69, but still.
Correct. So moving forward. Yeah.
That's when Morbius came out, Nathan.
Right. The daughter is supposed to be 17.
Yeah,
high school age, yeah.
16,
so 17. The original stuff when, Primar.
I'm
talking about
Primat?
I feel like I'm talking about fucking Santa Claus Conquers the Martians here.
Yes. Just
that stuff when she was first pregnant, if they're aging a year like humans,
Mm-hmm.
That whole opening stuff should have been like 1976.
Which it would make sense because that's when the sketches aired on SNL. So that's kind of interesting.
But
there is nothing indicating directly the passage of time.
Right.
Where we begin, and where we end up.
When we meet, fucking Dan Aykroyd's character, Beldar. When we meet Beldar in his job with Sinbad at the auto detailing shop, and Eddie Griffin's there, commenting on how well they're doing. They've got him done up like a late 80s hip hop guy. Like he's got the overalls on, and Sinbad and Eddie Griffin are there dressed like late 80s hip hop guys. Mm-hmm. So the timing is super off.
Well, they could have easily explained that away by doing something about the Coneheads aging differently.
But here's
they
the
don't.
thing.
Correct.
They don't.
Yeah.
And
meanwhile,
Sinbad is with them whole throughout almost the entire movie.
And a very young David Spade and Michael McKean,
who don't age at all because we see them early on and then we also see them later.
Correct.
Right.
So I mean, I'm thinking a lot of stuff got cut at the last minute too because this movie's 82 minutes without credits. And there's no way this wasn't like almost 2 hours before it was just slashed to bits. I feel like the test screenings for this went horrible. They had to have. How could they not?
Yeah,
so
I don't know. I haven't read anything about
we're not giving you the kind of free range you had on Nothing But Trouble, okay?
Correct. Yeah.
And dial it in there, bud.
Yeah.
He had far less power, did not have final cut on this one.
Only Tupac Shakur could have saved this movie.
Or a dance number at a McDonald's.
Yes.
Oh man, that would have been great. Actually, I don't know if the Coneheads dancing would have really. It would have made me just as uncomfortable as last week's movie.
You mean the doing their little penguin dance, their little penguin moves.
Yeah. I totally see. There's so many people in this movie, and it's so packed of cameos that when you said Sinbad and Eddie Griffin, for a second, my brain was like, "What are you talking about?"
Your brain just simply can't hold it all in. There's every moment. This is like a Wes Anderson film of SNL cameos. Just every other second, it's someone else.
It's about as side-splittingly hilarious as a Wes Anderson film.
Oh, hello.
Well, I mean,
his movies are funny, but I've never watched one going, "Oh my God, I can't stop laughing! I can't stop laughing."
It's it's as confusing as some Wes Anderson movies.
Yes.
In different ways. Yeah.
Every scene in this movie could just be a sketch. Like almost every
Correct.
scene. But it would be
that's how
same
it's written.
sketch.
That's why I said it feels like just like 30 sketches sewn together.
It might as well be movie 42. Like
the scene where here's the sketch where Sinbad and Dan Aykroyd are driving in the car and Dan Aykroyd thinks a condom is bubblegum.
Yes,
get it?
A hilarious joke that they
did you like that joke
many
kids?
Times.
Just stick around, we're gonna bring it on back.
Oh yeah, many times the condom joke comes back, because and then it worked so well in American Werewolf in Paris.
My favorite American Werewolf in movie.
Exactly.
Were you guys surprised kind of that this was only PG? Like it wasn't even PG-13. And this is 93.
Right. Yeah, cuz there's like the bear alien butt,
but there's no
little
crack.
Prods. No crack, of course. Yeah.
The MPAA is so weird.
Weird.
I was just surprised they went for that rating because I mean, pretty much any other SNL movie is at least a PG-13. Like they know the audience that watches the show.
Right. So they're trying to rope in like the 8 to 12 bracket.
Right.
But why? I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, this movie is not for children.
Well, because Galen, I don't know if you know this, but in 1993, all the 12-year-olds were staying up in 1977 to watch the Coneheads sketches.
Right, to watch the classic, classic cast of SNL.
They were in heavy repeat on like the Comedy Channel and I think Comedy Channel in the States and Comedy Network.
Comedy Central, yeah, Comedy Central.
Comedy Central, sorry, yeah, Comedy Central.
Get it right.
Pretty late though. Like I would think even the repeats were on at like 11 o'clock at night for the most part.
Oh no, man! Like, from the bootleg episodes of Mystery Science Theater that I've watched, they would run SNL like during the day and stuff just to fill time.
Oh yeah, yeah. They would pump them through.
Syndicated episodes. I'm so mad every time I'm like, I used to look for an episode and I would find it and I would get it and then I would look and it'd be like 45 minutes long. I'm like, God damn it. So and what's funny is there's so many, I guess there's a lot of people too that pop up in this movie that weren't really anything at the time. Like, I don't know that Eddie Griffin was a big deal in 1993, but he barely does anything.
More on the stand-up scene.
Yeah,
so they bring in a lot of up and coming comedians. Like like Ellen DeGeneres has one line as the PE coach.
Yeah, and like Drew Carey has one line as a taxi passenger.
As a taxi cab passenger, right?
Yeah.
And you think that because with that scene where Beldar is driving a cab with a super culturally sensitive turban wrapped around his cone.
Yep, that's great.
Yeah. And Drew Carey gets in, and Beldar is the cabbie. You at least think there's going to be some sort of hijinks, a la Ernest Saves Christmas, but you don't get that.
No, not at all.
I want to go to the airport. Okay, you want to go this way, and he's giving him like super precise directions of how he's going to take, and then they drive off, and you think it's going to be like some wacky race to the airport. It's not. They just show Beldar rolling up in front of his apartment building that he has that he's renting now from the guy who helped him get a job with the cab company.
I do feel like a lot of the celebrity cameos are not utilized very well either.
Getting the cameo was the first order of business. What they were gonna do was like 10th.
Well, listen to me. Like Michael Richards is one of the first ones, and he's like a hotel clerk.
And he's got to play straight for them.
Yeah, Beldar shows up, and he's like, I want to stay here, blah, blah, blah. And Primat drops like a bunch of coins on the desk to pay for it. And he doesn't get to do anything funny. He's just kind of reacting. But like, it's like you have Michael Richards. Like you want a goofy, weird character. You don't want like just
you want Stanley Spadowski.
Yeah.
Right. So it does. It gets into like some of the primary core issues of this is because the Coneheads in themselves are the punchline. It gives no room for anyone else to bring in comedy because that's because them in their cone forms always take attention.
But that's the gag of the sketch too, and that's what they played heavily on.
That's what they played.
Is that everybody has to play straight.
Everyone has to play straight. Everyone has to ignore the fact that they have that they have bizarre Coneheads, which again is fine for 5 minutes, but over the course of 86 minutes, 82 without credits, it becomes bizarre and unwatchable.
And I'll say too, you mentioned it's fine over 5 minutes. I love the Conehead sketches. There's some classic Conehead sketches,
classic bits because they're contained.
Yeah,
but trying to stretch that joke, over a 90-minute, a 3-act plot line is impossible.
Yeah, because they could focus on one thing. It's like, in this one, Connie goes on a date. How's that going to go? That could be fun. In this one, they get called up to their home planet. Okay, it's a big elaborate sketch. I remember there's one where they get called up to their home planet and they did all this footage. It's a live sketch and they cut to footage of the Coneheads just driving to where they got to get on their spaceship and everything. And it looks like the crew is literally filming and all these regular people are just looking at them being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, right. That's hilarious because it's like, it's something different and it's something quick. It's not 82 minutes of ha ha ha. They say simple things in a complicated way, and oh my god, their voices are goofy, and wow, they do things differently than us. That's funny. Like those are all the jokes. in this movie.
Right, because you can sustain that exaggerated reality over 5 minutes, because at the end you get the joke, the punchline is delivered, end of scene. With this, it's impossible to sustain that over that whole course, because the whole time once you start bringing in actual reality into it, the whole time you're thinking, why is no one saying you have a conehead?
Well, that's just it. We get our breaks in our sketches,
correct,
for this with the introduction of reality, because Michael McKean is an INS guy. David Spade is his Smithers essentially.
Right.
And we first meet them. They want to bust because of the Chico. What was it, guys?
The Chico, yeah.
Yeah, Donald DeChico, yeah.
DeChico. Okay, so they want to bust him because this is like the 10th time Donald DeChico has the guy who died 6 years ago this is the 10th job he's taken in the last 6 or 7 months. So you get that, but I mean, and they try to break up the movie and disguise the fact that you're just seeing the same joke over and over again by putting these in. And I mean, there's some interesting stuff that they do here. Like McKean is like, obviously he's like super right-wing Republican. He's got a picture of Bush and Reagan in his office.
Right.
And he wants to set up essentially like a Running Man perimeter at the border so that if undocumented immigrants try to cross the border, their heads will explode. Right.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, that bit where he has Bush and Reagan in his office, that's like some set designer. That's a good joke, guy. Like, good job on that one.
Good on you. I'm sorry it was wasted on this movie.
The whole thing is, it's meant to be, a commentary on the U.S. handling of the immigration, of immigration. And so that's clearly they're putting in all of the check marks.
We do have one instance of denoting the passing of time, because we do have a growing up montage.
Of course, a montage, because montages solve all the world's problems.
Right. So you do get to see Connie kind of growing up, but again, it's so weird, because when we first introduced to them, it's very much seems like it's the mid to late 80s, because of the way everybody's dressed and things look. And then we cut this montage, and Aykroyd's dressed all 70s with the checkered Herb Tarlick suit.
Yes.
And they're getting the house and stuff like that. So it jumps around on that. So it's really poor with that consistency. But I guess it's fine, because Jason Alexander is his neighbor, and he's there to tell a joke about how he has a toupee, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Again, Jason Alexander, very funny guy, gets nothing in this movie.
He has nothing to do. No one has anything to do in this movie.
And again, I was about to question you again. My brain forgot that he's in this movie, and I know
he has
so is Tom Arnold.
Tom Arnold with
Tom Arnold
in
an
line.
uncredited cameo.
Jason
as a rival golfer.
Jason Alexander, by the way, his wig is the best and worst special effect in the movie.
Right.
Probably almost as painful to wear as the cone cap, I'm sure.
So we get the aforementioned subway scene where Connie goes on a date with Ronnie, Chris Farley,
yes.
And she inhales a sub, and he's super impressed by it. And then we go to the grocery store where Jane is shopping with the Jason Alexander's wife, and she's like, I don't know, he's got that continental accent that would just drive a lady wild. Smash cut to Dan Aykroyd teaching Jan Hooks how to drive, and she is absolutely turned on by this guy who sounds like an early robot voice for like an answering machine.
Yeah,
and it's a giant cone growing out of his head.
Right. The logic never. It's like all the logic is there is is kind of assumed, to sustain the half a joke that's plugged into the scene.
Any movie that tries to convince me that Dan Aykroyd is being fought over by Jane Curtin and Jan Hooks is asking me to make a serious logical leap. Like, I'm sorry, Jan Hooks.
Yeah. Well. Next up, we have Dr. Detroit.
Probably put that one on the list too.
Yeah.
But Jan Hooks, again, Jan Hook's doing a solid job. Like, she knows exactly what this scene is supposed to be. She's being seductive. She's being, oh, looks like I crashed. Oh no. Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to come back. Like, she's playing it well. And same with David Spade. Like, he does that snarky thing really well, and he's doing it.
He's very funny in this movie.
It's essentially that character, that the receptionist character that he
for
played.
Dick Clark.
Yeah.
And you
he's basically doing that guy. Yeah. And doing it quite well.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. He's one of the watchable elements of this movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they're both fine. There are people that show up and do their thing, and I've got no problems for the most part, like performance-wise in this movie. But it's just that no one has jokes other than Coneheads.
Everyone is just it's just a whole it's just holding up their little toothpicks trying to balance this bloated carcass of a movie.
I had also forgot the Red Hot Chili Peppers supply some music for this movie.
They sure do. Yeah.
Soul to Squeeze, like
Soul to Squeeze.
That's like one of their best tunes, and it's in this fucking trash heap.
Yeah, I think it. I think it like premiered in this movie.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where the soundtrack is noted as being greater than the movie, but
full of bangers.
In this case, it had no option but to be.
Yeah. And of course, you mean that primarily for the Conehead love song at the end of the movie. That's your favorite track, right?
Yeah, that's it, Galen.
But hold on, guys. We talk about how this movie's not that funny, but I think we're forgetting a key scene here. Is when Primat.
Enlighten me.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, and you guys will bust your guts laughing because you'll remember all about it. But it's the scene where Primat is giving birth to Connie. Oh my lord, there's fluids and there's yelling and Beldar bites the umbilical cord because that's funny and it's just a hoot.
Right. Yes, she's the she's screaming I hate you because if an alien is pregnant and going through the going through all of the pregnancy tropes, that's hilarious.
Well, the thing is too, like you said, it doesn't. First of all, we have to accept the fact that no one thinks it's weird that the way they look, the way they sound, the fact that Beldar has they'll find certain things weird, like when Beldar's at the gym and he steps into the shower and he has the little prongs on his end where the butt crack should be. People clock that and think that's strange, but to say nothing of his conical head. Well, and he goes into the dentist office, the dentist played by John Lovitz, and he has 100 teeth, and he just kind of goes
3 rows of teeth.
He just kind of goes like, well, that's kind of weird, I guess, but okay, we'll cap them.
Well, yeah, because if you have a conical head, anything's possible.
Okay, so Dan Aykroyd's character, he doesn't have a butt crack.
Correct.
So no back butt.
Correct. Yeah, he has these little. He has these little prongs. Right. These little nubs sticking out in place of butt crack.
Why are we to believe that she has front butt?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand. That's what I was gonna say. I don't understand because
I think
there
should be more like the Mac and Me family, where they're just Ken dolled.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I don't understand, because there's so many things in this movie where it's like, okay, like the prongs on his butt, some of the cones, obviously, and some things that are clearly alien. Why do they have so many human qualities? Why do they have babies just like humans? Like, why does she go to a hospital?
Surely they have random powers and abilities that are never really explained.
Well, surely she would go into a hospital and the doctor would be like, that's not a human vagina.
Yeah.
Right.
Why does it have 5 rows of
teeth?
teeth?
Here checks out.
Oh my God, is that what that movie Teeth is about? It's Jane Curtin as a Conehead.
It's probably Connie.
I wish
Honey.
he had taken that role. Oh, that would be great.
Jane, it's more of it's supposed to be like a teenage girl. It's like a coming of age thing. Come on, guys. Come on.
We'll put we'll throw John Lithgow in here and it'll be great.
What role can we get for Joey Gordon-Levitt?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and don't forget French Stewart.
Oh yeah. I will also point out Chris Farley as the love interest. He's adorable until he gets really rapey. Then it gets not so great.
Yeah, and he's supposedly a teenager.
Okay, that's another thing too. If we can cast
he's a
Chris
dumb
Farley,
teenager.
but if we can cast Chris Farley as a teenager, I mean, we could probably get away with just letting Laraine Newman have her old role.
Yeah,
honestly.
Sure. Okay.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, who cares though? Like, if nothing else is weird about the movie, who cares if the daughter is being played by like a 40-year-old woman? Like,
yeah, well, I mean,
matter.
And that's where like the suspension of disbelief, is brought into question, because like you look at Wayne's World, where it's the whole joke was like it's two guys in their mid-30s playing like 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
But it for that it worked. Like where you don't that that is accepted and you move forward. Whereas with this you don't know where the logic begins and ends.
Yeah, and the other thing is
you set the rule and then you go with it. Where there are no rules in this movie.
The other thing too is that with Wayne's World, the sketches, like I said, I love the Coneheads sketches, but it's essentially a version of the same joke. Wayne's World is very much like different jokes throughout. Sometimes they were topical at times, like sometimes they had guests. Sometimes Aerosmith.
There was a whole world within it that they built.
Yeah, they explored the relationship of Wayne and Garth outside of the show, the friends that they have that help them run the show. There's more depth to Wayne's World than there is Coneheads.
Yeah, because
also Wayne's World had Rob Lowe. That's a big difference too.
And Tia Carrere.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think like because this and Blues Brothers were the two SNL based movies that had preceded this, and they were both successful because I think they weren't locked into one specific joke that had to be sustained throughout the whole film. It was just the characters themselves that interact in the world in a specific way, and then you could build around it. Whereas this, it's a joke that is defying human logic that then you have to agree to for the course of the film, which is impossible.
It's that, but I mean, they also lock themselves into it because this is the same joke over and over again.
I mean, yeah, they lock themselves into it.
There's ways that you could have actually explored, different relationships that they're having with other people outside of their house, but they limit it to Chris Farley, some talk with the neighbors, and then the rest of it is just them trying to dodge INS and, I don't know, give everybody radiation burns from fireworks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that happens.
You know what part, honestly, the part that most confused me, because I hadn't seen this in a few years, and it completely, scooted out of my brain. But the part where when you start out with McKean and David Spade playing those INS guys, or David Spade is assistant, whatever, and they're clearly after Beldar now that he's got his new identity thanks to a shady Adam Sandler. So you think okay, this is the plot, right? This is the main plot that we're going to come back to. They're constantly on the lookout after them. Great. But then what I thought was bizarre was when Michael McKean finds out he's getting a promotion, and, he does that thing where he's like, well, I don't care what happens with this. And he walks away, and Spade walks away. And then we don't go back to that plot for a long time. And I'm like, wait.
Because he's up for another promotion.
Well, that's what I mean, but it's so weird how they just. It would have been something different if they had done that, because later on, Michael McKean goes into this meeting with Senator Kevin Nealon, and again, everyone's in this movie, and Kevin Nealon tells him oh, this whole thing with the Chico, you put $250,000 into it. We never found them, and then they go back and start investigating again. But why even have that? Because for like 25 minutes or so, you're like, okay, so there's no stakes anymore because they just left. This plot has left the movie, and then it awkwardly comes back in. Like, I don't understand. Like, they could have had all the family stuff and all the neighbor stuff while still having this in the background existing.
And they even try to pad it out even more by having Beldar covet this most improved golfer trophy.
Yeah, which doesn't fit into any of it. I mean, there's really no B plot to this movie.
No, and they want to introduce that plot point so that later when he's battling that monster on the home planet, he's a good golfer. Well, you could have just established that he likes to go golfing, because they do that in the growing up montage. One of the Christmas gifts he gets during that montage is like a set of Titleist golf clubs and golf balls. So it's like, okay, he's a golfer. I don't need this. He's coveting this trophy and he's trying to get it, but there's nothing to show him going through anything, winning a tournament, winning a game of golf at all. The only time we see him golfing is when he's out with Jason Alexander. Chris Farley rolls up to apologize for getting all handsy with Connie, and Tom Arnold's there. He's like, "Hey, what's with your head?" And then he leaves.
Tom Arnold, I'm just going to admit it right now, and I feel gross saying this.
Best part of this movie?
That is the biggest laugh of the movie for me, because he's the only character that's like, what's with the cone? And I'm like, thank you.
Finally someone says something.
Tom Arnold, voice of reason.
Mm-hmm.
Saving
grace. Yeah. And then, and then he was like, I have the Trump tapes.
I got the PP tapes. Who wants them?
And they're starring Michael McKean.
But yeah, so that's like that. I just wanted to admit that scene that line did make me laugh.
Do you think it was a subtle joke that Michael McKean and David Spade's characters show up undercover as Jehovah's Witnesses while they're getting ready for a Halloween party?
I don't think this movie knows what a subtle joke is, so I'm not sure.
All right, so it's just a coincidence then, eh?
I think it's a coincidence. Okay. Yeah, I think they were just going for the trope of like who goes door to door.
Correct.
Right.
And that's the most 90s door to door trope there is.
You know what would have been funnier, because it was a Halloween party they were going to, is if Michael McKean had made David Spade go undercover as like his kid. Dressed up in a Halloween. That would have been hilarious.
Right, or if they followed them to the Halloween party in costume.
But Nathan, you're talking about jokes that don't involve the Coneheads. We don't have time for that.
I suppose. I gotta think Conehead fucking.
Oh, I gotta think it was miserable for everyone that wasn't playing a Conehead on this set, because like you don't get to do anything. Like Kevin Nealon shows up and he's like, "What? Okay, you want me to just say that line and then leave the movie? Okay."
Right.
Well, similarly to Master of Disguise, he comes in and says his
Classic.
like 2 lines and leaves. Yeah, well, yeah.
Pay me.
This I will say this is probably better than Master of Disguise. Just the sheer
low bar so low it's a floor.
Yeah, we're talking about like degrees here, like the infinitesimal degrees.
Yeah. I didn't get Dana Carvey Scarface in this movie.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about the sex scene. Go on, Nathan. Talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it.
It's unsettling because the neighbor lady put it in
Primat's
head that Beldar is gonna cheat on her, or Jan Hooks is gonna try to seduce her away, because they even meet up in the grocery store. Like kind of cross paths and they get that knowing glance, and then Jane's character goes home and gets all seductive, and it's like, so this is how they bone, hey?
Oh, with the senso rings?
Yeah. Oh well, because
that's right for the sketches too.
That's also fun. That is kind of a funny bit, not the Jane and Dan one, but later with Connie and Chris Farley when they catch them trying to use the senso rings, and they're like, "Where did you get those? From under your bed?" Okay, so first of all, if I find sexual devices under my parents' bed, I am not attempting to use them. No. I don't know what would possess her to do such a thing.
Well, you don't know the customs you don't know the Conehead customs. Maybe it's customary to use the sexual pleasure tools that were used by your parents.
Well, you know what? We don't get too much time to think about that because the INS did follow them back from the dance, and now it's time for the getaway and get sucked up to the mothership to go back to Remulok.
But and now that we're back on that topic, you forgot. Not only does he to defeat the monster, not only does he bring in his golf, he also recites "Tainted Love."
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's his big turning point, is realizing that he likes the song that his daughter was listening to in the car. A song that is like 10 years old at this point.
Because it helps him defeat a monster.
Yes, it's like his warm-up song.
I will say that that was another small laugh from me, though, when he's in the car with his daughter and her two friends, and they're singing like obnoxiously, and just his facial reaction. That's more Dan Aykroyd just kind of working for me a little bit when he's making
most dads actually
frustrated, and he's just like that whole time.
Also, speaking
I can't wait till they get out of the car so I can put on The Cure.
Speaking of random cameos, did you recognize her two friends?
Oh, no. Yes. I did.
Oh, Parker Posey was one of them, right?
Parker Posey and Joey Lauren Adams.
Yes,
That's wild.
And the three of them were all friends in Dazed and Confused.
Wow. Do you think they, on the set of Dazed and Confused, they were like, remember when we were in Coneheads?
Well, this came out. I'm not sure which was filmed first.
Yeah, chicken or the egg.
We have to figure that. We have to figure that out.
Well, they both came out in '93.
Correct. So I think they were both summer films. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So I imagine, they were.
I would think
they were brought on from one or the other. I would imagine that they did Dazed and Confused first because they actually had a good time on that set and were like, oh, I will bring on my friends for into this film.
See, the only reason I'm thinking they did Coneheads first is because Coneheads, I feel like, had a longer post production. So I feel like Dazed and Confused.
I don't know. I feel like feel like they cranked this one out with right after Wayne's World. I feel like the
post would. Brendan makes a good point because you got to take time to put in that Harryhausen monster.
Okay, so we got to talk about Remulak, because on Remulak we also get Dave Thomas as the High Master. We get a tiny bit of Garrett Morris.
Yeah, we get some Tim Meadows. We get some Phil Hartman.
Phil Hartman, who I was like, okay, I'm always happy to see Phil Hartman, no matter what he's doing.
Exactly.
Tim Meadows gets to show up, say one line, and die.
Yes. Yeah. So pretty much. Was he even? When did he start on SNL?
In 1990.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because Tim Meadows was a cast member who was on for 10 years, and really the first 5 years of his tenure, he didn't really do a whole lot. But did he start
out as a writer or?
No, he was in the cast 1990. But if you look at like when the Will Ferrell crew came in to the end of his term, that's when he was really starting to ramp up.
That's when they brought then they brought him up. Yeah.
The ladies man.
How wild.
I'm Leon Phelps and the ladies man. Yeah, that whole thing.
Another successful iteration. Yeah.
But unfortunately, an underappreciated movie.
I do have a little bit of affection for that movie. I'm not gonna lie.
I haven't seen it, to be fair.
Okay. Great sketch too. Love that recurring sketch.
True.
It's a lot of fun.
True.
Same thing with Superstar. Kind of a little bit of an affection for that one. Night at the Roxbury, not so much.
Nope.
But anyway, yes, they're in Remulak. We get more cameos from people. And then Dan Aykroyd.
Laraine Newman, of course. Yeah.
Laraine Newman, very briefly. Again, she gets an and Laraine Newman credit at the beginning, and I'm like, that's not enough for an and Laraine Newman credit.
We cut to her a bunch, but I think she probably has all of like 2 lines.
Yeah, she says something about getting excited to see the monster, and I was like, oh, Laraine Newman.
They sit her right next to the, to the others. Yeah.
Well, she's like Phil Hartman's wife, right, in this movie?
I think so.
I
Yeah,
have no
but
idea.
Connie actually.
idea.
I think they did it more so the Connie could have the direct contact or interaction with her.
Yeah.
Because Connie, young Connie, turns to old Connie and says, what is this monster? And then she kind of explains it to her.
Yeah.
I will say that. I will say that.
Yeah.
I want to say too that like Michelle Burke as Connie, she's fine. She's fine in this movie. Like
she's great.
I like how she's not like the family because it gives us a break from that.
Well, it's interesting because when we were first introduced to her, she's kind of using some of the heightened language a little bit when talking to her parents.
Consume
but then
mass
that's
quantities.
completely dropped. But then the rest of the movie, she's just speaking like an American teenager.
She's been Americanized, man.
Immediately, within 5 minutes.
Well, that's what Chris Farley will do to you. He'll be super charming. He'll be super charming. He'll get a bit rapey, and then he'll have a redemption arc. That was weird.
And then pretty soon you're living in a van down by the river.
Hey.
Another question.
That would have made a good movie, by the way. I would have watched a Matt Foley movie.
Matt Foley, amazing.
I feel it would have been a louder version of Stuart Saves His Family.
Just everyone screaming, yeah.
But at least with Matt Foley, there's again, it's a sketch where there's a lot more you can do. It's not just one joke over and over again.
Depending on who writes the movie, though, they might be like, let's just have him fall through another table. It's hilarious when Fatty falls down.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, it had more potential to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
where this had none, and then the results were negative.
Yeah, let's wait 17 years to make a movie out of this sketch. So he fights the monster, like you said, right out of a Harryhausen movie. That's his punishment. They're like
the Harryhausen cone monster, yeah.
Yeah, and
it's his punishment because he capped his teeth.
He capped his teeth, yeah.
They considered it treason, I guess.
Yeah. Anything for an excuse to get this tacked on fight. Yeah. And he said he starts singing Tainted Love to lure it out. He uses his golf stroke, and I don't know. I kind of like I was
because every Harryhausen monster is lured like a siren to the trill of Soft Cell.
Yep. Does he just hit it with the thing?
He drills a line drive right down the thing's throat, and it chokes on a rock.
Okay. And then when he wins, he says you can have anything you want. He says, okay, I want to go back to Earth and I'll destroy the Earth. And the movie is like,
I need to take the 2 human slaves as well.
Right. Michael McKean.
And he's like,
Spade.
Dave Thomas is like, you can take one. So he takes Michael McKean and says, I'll take you back if you give me a green card.
Right.
And that just for a green card.
Just for a fucking green card. Yeah. Because a conflict that is never. That is never following them through the movie. There's never an issue other than that issue never rises other than through Michael McKean.
Also, died laughing, and this ended like Mac and Me, where they're in a courthouse having a U.S. citizen, and then they drive away in a pink Cadillac, and then someone blows in a bubble out of a condom, and it says, "We'll be back."
I gotta say. It makes no sense to me, this whole thing with Michael McKean giving them the green card, because okay, cool, so he's not gonna report on them. But don't you remember like when they went up on the spaceship, there were like 200 people watching? Are you telling me that none of those people are gonna be like, there's fucking aliens?
Right.
Well, that's no longer an issue for INS, because they were just visiting. If those aliens that abducted them and tried to get jobs, then it's an INS problem. McKean set that rule very firmly at the first of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying there should be more people that they're paying off. They gotta go bring more people up to the High Master and save them in order to make sure no one tells anyone about them. But yeah, so they pretend like they're gonna destroy the Earth, and then of course Beldar doesn't destroy the Earth. The movie actually makes us think that he's gonna do it. Like, come on, how stupid do you think we are?
At this point, right?
Yeah, and so of course he doesn't. They go back home. Everything's great. Spade becomes the High Master's new PR guy, which is kind of funny. And
that was cute. I mean, again, everything with Spade, worked.
Yeah,
he made that translate.
And that's pretty much it. That's the end of the movie. Coneheads live happily ever after, and we don't. Hard to listen, guys. There's not a lot going on in this movie.
One other question I had, and again,
Yes,
I know it's pointless to argue any sticking points of this movie, but when they're assigned the name DeChico, and then later everyone calls them Conehead, is that explained?
Nope.
Well, because they can't go by DeChico anymore, because that's what tipped off INS at the first.
So then, yeah, right. So then they just go by Conehead, because that's far less suspect.
Somehow, fucking Beldar started his own driving school, and there's all kinds of regulations that you fill out at government forms, and you would definitely need a social security number along with a gajillion other pieces of government issued ID that he wouldn't have.
Because the only reason they have him doing that is because it's a fucking fan service to the sketches where he says, I work as a driving instructor, which is funny in a 5-minute sketch, because then you're like, wait, what? How did he get that job? But in a movie, you're like, wait, how did he get that job? Come on.
And then we get to see him do it. Yeah.
Right.
Because that's hilarious.
Oh boy. So Coneheads, we did it. We talked about this movie. We discussed it. We batted it around. But now I'm sure this will shock everyone. We're going to find out everyone's true opinion. So,
oh boy.
Galen, we'll start with you. Was this film worth a watch, a drunk watch with friends? Would you attempt head trauma to forget it, or avoid it like the plague?
Boy. I wouldn't say quite avoid it like the plague, because again, there are elements of it that is so bizarre to see all of the cameos strung together. I mean, I think bear witness to it, and then beat yourself about the head in punishment, and let that be its own reward as you forget what actually entailed.
So you would attempt Conehead trauma to forget it?
I would bash my conical head after seeing this film.
All right, and what say you, Nathan?
Oh man, avoid this like the plague. Like, I don't mean it in like a
loquacia way.
It's not in a loquacia way, but avoid it like the plague, because if you've seen the sketch, you've seen the movie.
Fair enough.
I mean, and if you, unless you're a fan of hearing essentially the same joke repeated conservatively 50 times, just go get Wayne's World. Wayne's World, hell, Stuart says his family's better than this thing.
Hey, you know what? Wayne's World 2.
Yeah,
honestly.
Wayne's World 2 is better, yeah. Absolutely.
Wayne's World 2 is pretty good. That's an underrated one, I think.
It's not great, but it's miles above this.
I'm also going to go, I never thought I would say this. I am also going to go full tilt boogie on this and avoid it like the plague.
Wow.
It's a borderline. It's close. It's almost a head trauma. And the people in this movie, I should not be giving this the harshest condemnation, but it's just, it's so painfully unfunny. And it shouldn't be, with the cast, with the writers, with the people behind it. It's just nothing is working. And even the mild laughs, like I said, I laughed when Tom Arnold had that line. I thought Adam Sandler's scene was fine. Jan Hooks, the performances are not bad or anything, but it's just a disaster. And heed my word, people. If we ever do It's Pat, and we most assuredly will say avoid like the plague, this is a different level of avoid like the plague. It's not as bad as It's Pat, but I would still say well, maybe Loquacia, but I would still say
certainly no. It's certainly. I mean, It's Pat is certainly the worst of the SNL movies.
Oh, no doubt. As Gwen Stefani would say. So yeah, I would avoid this one like the plague as well. I'm sorry, Coneheads. Better luck next time when you're back for Coneheads 2.
And Mac and me too. We'll cover them in the same week.
I mean, I will if that happens. But on that note, folks, we are going to take a brief little break, and we will be right back.
What were they thinking?
At Salesforce, we're all about asking more of AI. Questions like, where's the data going? Is it secure? Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? Get answers you can trust from Salesforce at askmoreofai.com.
And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Folks, it is now time for the low haiku. It's the time where we make those nice mouth sounds that you love to hear.
Lip and tongue action.
Yeah. So, Nathan, why don't you explain to the folks, if they don't know, what this whole low haiku hubbub is all about?
Well, the low haiku is 17 perfect syllables to describe the movie that we've just been agonizing over for an hour and some change.
That is correct. And of course, since we have our guest, I will allow Mr. Galen Howard to begin with his low haiku.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, I am. Farley attempts to save this movie. He does not. Tragedy defined.
Very good. Very, very good.
Very good. Very good. And Nathan, would you like to read your low haiku?
Yes. This was a good sketch, but as a film, it's dire. It can eat my cone.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. To the point.
Okay, I will read my haiku here. All done my screenplay, all typed and printed and sent. One joke, copy, paste.
Very, very accurate.
Q. Oh, thank you. Well, now that we've done that, we are going to load our way out.
Whoa, that's right, folks. It's another hot day out here. How hot would you say it was there, Brendan?
I'd say it's hot as fuck out there.
There you go, folks. Hope you're taking those surface streets. Keep that AC on and roll them windows up because, hey, those flying bats are out there and they're biting anything that moves.
Yes, we live in a Morbius world, and I am a Morbius girl. So now that we've all waxed poetic, now that we've given our take on this movie, we like to, we don't like to hog the spotlight.
No.
Our word is not final. So Nathan, we have a saying around here, and how does that go?
That saying, I believe, goes a little something like, "Don't take a word for it."
That's right. That's what we say. We say don't take our word for it. And we go over to the Rotten Tomatoes to see what others are saying. Now, we know this was a flop, but certainly, Dan Aykroyd, Jane Curtin, some great comedians. The critics must have had some nice words to say about it.
Not too many of them. 35% of the old tomatoes, and that's out of 31 reviews. So, I mean, take that for what you will.
Okay. But surely the audience, SNL was hot at the time. We got lots of, younger cast members coming in. I'm sure they had a blast with this.
37.
In a row?
In a row. Out of 100,000 plus ratings.
Oh, we're going to be doing this segment for the next 3 hours.
So, but if you like this, and honestly, none of us did,
no,
you might also like Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Police Academy 2, their first assignment.
No, not the first one or the third one, though. Or the eighth one.
Problem Child.
Starring
the late, great John Ritter. And Gilbert Gottfried. Sergeant Bilko. And finally, I don't know what this is doing here, Airheads. And I do not agree with the ratings on the tomatoes. That movie is fantastic.
Wait, Nathan, don't put the movie on. Come back here.
Fine.
Galen, get
Sandler,
that.
He's so good.
Galen,
and
break that
Steve
VCR.
Buscemi,
Smash
John
it.
Montaigne's in it. Chris
Smash.
Farley's in it too.
Smash.
No, guys.
Smash.
My only copy of Airheads.
Yeah, we didn't even smash your copy, just your VCR, so
Just
you
your
should be
VCR,
grateful.
Yeah.
They're easier to get, right?
Tape was in there.
Oh, awkward. Well, you know what? Let's cheer you up. Let's read some critics' reviews of Coneheads. I'll start off with a positive one. Why not? From Leonard Clady of Variety. A sweet, funny, anarchic pastiche that should find broad-based popularity.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
let's see here. Rita Kempley of the Washington Post wrote, Curtin and Aykroyd rely on old standbys. When that doesn't work, which mostly it doesn't, they try grossing us out with a series of revolting Remulakian childbirth jokes. Remulakian, is that how it would be?
Remulakian, yeah. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
because we're sticklers for the right pronunciation.
Right.
Yeah, let's respect the Remulakians.
Yes. Well, the Remulakian culture
Yes,
of the
of course.
Remulaks. Yeah.
Don't assume. I know. I'm uncomfortable now. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Galen.
This one comes from Marilyn S. Mason of the Christian Science Monitor, reliable source.
My favorite.
This is what this is one of the positive reviews. She says Aykroyd's comedy is extreme and bizarre, sometimes even gross, but often endearing and rich in amusing parody of contemporary American society. I don't know what movie she watched.
Yeah, Pleasantville. It sounds like.
Sounds like Pleasantville.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just make this the last critics one because I feel like the audience ones are going to be a real hoot.
Yes.
This one comes from Dwayne Burge of The Hollywood Reporter. Simply says, can you inflate a gimmick-driven comedy skit into a full-fledged feature film? Up to a point.
Because it's right, the cones, I get it. Yeah.
Negative.
Wah, wah.
That's a negative.
My next one comes from Emmanuel Levy from EmmanuelLevy.com. I'm guessing he's taking to avenge his cousin Eugene, who was not in this movie.
And doesn't have as glorious a mustache.
Right. He writes a one-joke movie stretched to the limit. But he also gave it a C-, which I think is generous.
Very. Well, I think we can close the critics' reviews with this concise summation from Eric Lurio of the Greenwich Village Gazette, who simply says, "Fat."
Truer words have never been spoken.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's a great one word to go out on.
Perfect. They say we ain't going out like that, but we are, and we're
going out like fat. I go out like fat all the time.
We are going out like fat.
Fat.
So let's get into these audience reviews here.
Almost all of them are courtesy of Neil Breen.
There's a lot of them, yes. This one comes from Neil Breen, and it's 4 out of stars. It's not for everyone, apparently. I suppose it would be jarring to go into it without knowing the premise. Anyway, I thought it was adorable, much better than I expected. I don't think anyone was going in not knowing the premise. I think if you were watching Coneheads, you had a pretty good idea.
You've seen a single sketch, you know the premise. If someone told you the sketch of that SNL sketch, you would know the premise.
It's not like people were going to be like, I wonder what this is.
Right.
All right, Nathan, go ahead.
Well, my first audience one comes from Thomas D, which I actually think is a sly way that Dave Thomas got his review in on this, and it actually it kind of tracks with what you would go with somebody who was involved with this movie, because I went into this one with the lowest possible expectations, so that might be why I'm scoring it so high. Lots of laughs. I will be watching this one again, probably for the residuals.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good.
Like, spoiler alert, all the reviews I'll be reading is from Neil Breen, and he gives it 5 out of stars and says, ultra classic. To do a farce movie is rather easy, but a brilliant farce movie is a rare occurrence.
Yeah, and this isn't one of them.
Exactly.
Well, Galen, it's funny you said that because I also have a 5-star review here from Neil Breen, who says, the first time I saw the trailer, I thought a big what the fuck is happening here. But when I saw it, I understand that it was a parody of the American society and to the immigration process of adaptation and is really sweet and warm. And then he puts a quote here. Well, know all the days a father can give her daughter a world. This phrase touched my heart. How Rooney loved Connie without mattering him her conehead, and how their marriage progressed. I think that is a fresh, sometimes incoherent, sweet movie where the character develop themselves and progress.
Themselves.
Yep.
Yes.
Press?
Not
And
themselves.
progress.
Themselves. And progress. Not progress.
That's I just read it as written.
Read it as written. Yeah.
Well, that's what we do here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Verbatim.
Well, my next one is from Neil Breen, and old Neil writes, Coneheads is yet another nostalgic childhood film of mine, which for the most part still holds up. Brimming with an all-star cast of comedic celebrities, Coneheads is a purposely ridiculous, often hilarious, but occasionally flawed comedy. At times, the humor is a little too ridiculous and fails to land, but thankfully, in return, this gripe is compensated with the genuinely hilarious moments as well, boasting memorable parts like the Subway sandwich scene and more. Coneheads is a unique and thoroughly entertaining watch. 3.5 out of stars.
Fake news.
I love how the one hilarious sketch they could think of. And more.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This review from Neil Breen has Neil trying to, I think, butter his bread a little bit, as I think you can you'll see here. He gives it 2.5 out of stars and says, the main leads try their best to give their characters charm, but the comedy only seems to work when other well-known faces are on screen. This leaves the in-between scenes with nothing to remember them by, making only a part of the film worth a watch. For my full review of Coneheads, check it out on the IMDb link.
Oh man, plugging it.
Rotten Tomatoes loves that, eh?
Love that.
They'll love it.
Okay, well, this one, interestingly enough, comes from let me just see. Yeah, Mr. Neil Breen.
Yep.
Who gives it 5 stars. This film needs to be rescored by everybody who just don't get low-key humor. Yes, it's a poor main story, but it's just a bit of a laugh at humanity. Yeah, Coneheads is what I think of when I think of low-key humor.
Yeah. Low brow, maybe.
Hey!
All right.
Tom Hiddleston wasn't in this.
Speaking of lowbrow, next review from Neil Breen, and Neil takes a weird bent on this one. He writes, SNL 90s movies can be divided into 2 categories, pre and post David Spade twink phase. Nearly always the post phase is superior to the pre phase, even when he's supporting only. Twinks apparently do not a good film make unless they sing ... 2.5 out of stars.
What the fuck?
Okay. Wow. All right.
Wait, David Spade is a twink?
I mean, in the earlier years, yeah, I guess.
Wow.
Wow.
He was,
I mean,
he was skinny,
that's one takeaway.
waifish.
Yeah.
That's okay. Wow.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, twink
Not even
David
gonna,
Spade.
no,
I'm in.
Not even gonna dignify that. Wow.
Let's do it.
Great.
If his career had gotten one way or the other, he probably would have done a lot of movies revolving around the fact that he was a twink.
There you go.
With very little plot. Less than this, even. Actually, that's not true. I would say pornography usually has a more concise plot than this movie.
And believable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
And a climax.
Several.
Right.
Yep. All right. Well, this review from Neil Breen, it has he gets quite passionate here. He says, a year ago, I said Bean was the best comedy of all time. I was wrong. Coneheads may be the best comedy of all time for its intelligence, actors, and humor. This movie is hilarious all the way through. A prequel to the sketches on SNL. It's technically not a prequel. Coneheads follows two aliens who go to Earth to conquer the planet, but instead get trapped on there and have a child who is like them, but not. The main plot is the government trying to get them. The movie works. Everything works. It's hilarious throughout, and it's interesting to know about them and how they eat and how they sleep. And it's so interesting that it immediately gets you hooked. I suggest everyone should see it. 98 out of 100. A. 5 out of stars.
I love. Wait, what was the height of movies for him again before this?
Bean.
Bean was the greatest comedy until
Yep.
But before Bean, I'm assuming it was like Baby's Day Out, maybe.
Right. Or Baby Geniuses.
Baby Geniuses is solid. Yeah, solid.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my last one from the audience. It's very quick and straightforward, but it made me laugh. Neil Breen, once again, 5 stars, says, I would enter Coneheads' home anytime.
It does sound like something Neil Breen would say.
Don't know what that means, but
I don't know. Yeah. He wants to hang out with the Coneheads and thinks it's possible.
Just the home. He's just a big fan of the architecture.
They make him seem normal
He wants to tour the home. He wants to take a tour of the Coneheads home.
This is true, and yeah,
on the Paramount lot.
And that is true though, Nathan. Yeah, you're right. Neil Breen is normal by comparison. Well, I don't know.
They would make him seem normal by comparison.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't say he was normal, but seem. All right.
Also an alien, just not as bizarre.
It's bizarre in a different way.
Okay. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Anyways, my last one, it comes from Neil Breen. Again, surprised not. But he's kind of chiding in this one, and he writes, Danny. ... No wonder your most recognized film is Ghostbusters. It's movies like this that get people questioning about your choice of character roles, and especially this one. There is honestly not much to this movie at all. The comedy is lacking almost everywhere. It's unmemorable, to say the least. Apart from the cover, which I remember seeing years and years ago on a VHS cover, thank God I didn't watch it as a kid. I would have been disappointed out of my mind. 2 out of stars. And I will say this because I'm actually seeing the VHS cover, or the theatrical, the family photo, and while Jane and Dan are off-putting, it's kind of hard to talk so much shit about a girl who looks so sweet. She's just trying to make her way in that business, and she's, she was in Coneheads.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Anyways, send us home, Galen.
You got it. Well, this one from Neil Breen, giving it 4 out of stars. I think it can be taken a couple different ways, but he simply says, my motherhood told me it was very funny.
What?
Okay.
My motherhood told me it was very funny.
So wait, Neil Breen being a mother, the experience of being a mother.
Yes, was told learned from experience being a mother that this movie is very funny.
Okay, sure. I guess the jokes where Primat was doing mother stuff just made him laugh.
Yes, it was
vacuuming with her mouth.
It was was giving mouth to mouth with a vacuum.
Oh yeah, wasn't that hilarious, guys?
It was great.
Laughed so hard.
It was so good.
Let's
and when she was singing the Pepsi jingle, that was hilarious.
Product placement. We haven't seen that since a week ago.
Do you remember earlier when we talked about how like merch for this was everywhere? I'm not going to read the review, but someone mentions in one of the reviews, that they enjoyed the movie so much that they had a baseball cap that said "consume mass quantities." That's how much they thought this was going to be a money-making machine.
Yeah. I think it would be so funny and ironic if someone walked around with a consume mass quantities hat nowadays, though.
The hipsters would be thinking they were making like a righteous statement on the materialistic end of society.
That's true. But then you go, nah, it's from Coneheads.
No, I like
movie.
Coneheads, dude.
It's from the sketches, not the movie. So anyway, that's it. We talked about Coneheads. We never have to talk about it again.
Yeah. Did you read any of the trivia for this movie?
No.
There was apparently Dan Aykroyd at one point got upset because his personal wardrobe assistant couldn't get past the gate, so he threw a fit, got in a golf cart and started screaming profanities, and then went and trashed the security office.
Wow.
I actually
like unplugged the computer and threw it on the ground.
I didn't know that there's one bit of trivia that I had remembered is that they had tried this previously as an animated TV movie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There was a Coneheads TV movie in 1983 that was, I guess, to serve as a pilot for a show.
Yeah, that tracks. Yeah. The other just little bit of random trivia was that Michelle Burke sometimes would when on set would try to flirt with other guys on set, forgetting that she was wearing her cone. That made me laugh. That was very cute.
That's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot sweeter than the other thing.
Than everything about this movie. Yeah.
Well, no, but a lot sweeter than what you said about Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, yes, about him being a maniac. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that tracks.
Yes.
So there we go. We did it. We talked about Coneheads. We're done. We're moving on to go to the greener pastures. No, we're not going to say that. But we're moving on to better things, things that we enjoy, things that we like, things that give us hope for the future. It's the dance craze sensation that's sweeping the nation. It's time for the What You Watching, Bud.
Stick a hand in your head and tell me what you're watching, bud. I might be dead, but I can still watch what you're watching, bud.
So, Galen, as our guest, I have to ask you. First, what you watching, bud?
Recently, I was late to the game watching the series on Netflix, Beef, with Steven Yeun and Ali Wong. If you're kind of into the trend in a lot of comedy dramas, right now, that's kind of this sort of what I call bad decision porn, where the bad choices of the main cast just snowball one after another. It's absolutely addictive, infectious, and has you hating your life. And especially if you live in Los Angeles, because I have encountered or heard of or heard tell other people who have encountered just about everyone depicted in this series, and it is worth a watch, bud.
All right, perfect. Nathan, what about you, pal?
Well, buddy, recently, as I said, the week of recording has been hectic, but I did manage to get in a viewing of John Wick Chapter 4 before everything got wacky for me, and that was a lot of fun. I probably liked it better than the second one, actually. And there's lots of cool stuff in there. I get to see Lance one last time, which is unfortunate.
And I will say too, Nathan, I remember we talked about this. The 3 hours doesn't feel like 3 hours, does it?
It did. No, it didn't. It did not. Everything just kept zipping right past me, bullets and all.
Yeah.
So yeah, John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Well, what I'm watching, buds, is I watched a movie that inspired a certain film director you may have heard of called Quentin Tarantino. I watched a movie that he really loves, and that movie is Lady Snowblood. This is a movie that if you watch it, you will say, oh yeah, he watched this right before he made Kill Bill, because it's a revenge tale. When the blood is shed, the blood sprays like a geyser, much like in Kill Bill. So in this movie, this woman is raped and assaulted by this group of men. She eventually, her revenge to that is she basically sleeps around after that and tries to get pregnant so she can have a daughter and have that daughter swear revenge. So that's what happens. Now, her goal is to grow up with a daughter, but she dies during childbirth. And so the movie is about this girl growing up and just coming after these people. And I mean, like when I say Kill Bill, I mean it. Like she has a list. She's like crossing people off. The movie is sometimes not in order. Like there's the first scene is not necessarily the first scene. And it's really good, man. It's bloody, it's violent, and it's also just like, it's not just, dumb fun. There's also like some great emotional stakes. And yeah, check it out. Lady Snowblood. There is a sequel as well, but I heard it's not quite as good. But this one is great, and I think you can watch it on the Criterion channel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And what country does it hail from?
It is a Japanese movie.
Excellent.
Yeah. When I said Tarantino, you probably had a thought that it might be.
That he has some. There's some trends in his in his taste. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a Japanese movie. It's got subtitles, so if you don't like reading,
reading's for losers.
Check it out. That's what I'm watching, bud. So now that we've gotten to the end of that, I better do this properly this week because last week I got in a lot of trouble. Montrose Monkington, come on in, do your thing.
Hello, it's your good friend Montrose Monkington III here. Finally, I'm being afforded the respect I deserve as a British chimpanzee puppet who reviews wrestling matches. That's right. So you can see those reviews over on my YouTube channel, Montrose Monkington TV. You can be friends with me at the Facebook group, Montrose Monkington III, Esquire and Friends. And finally, if you wish to, you can tweet at me on your Twitter devices at Montrose III. That's the number 3 RD. Thank you. More later. Yeah.
Thank you, Montrose.
You're welcome.
Galen, thank you for being on and talking about the heads of cones.
The heads
with
of
us.
cones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would like to plug or mention or jerk off to or whatever?
Wow.
I'm just giving you options.
Definitely not this movie. I would not recommend anyone.
You found this movie difficult to jerk off to?
It was, try as I might. Yeah. I had to bring up multiple windows in order to, to reach maximum pleasure.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, I would. What? I don't know. There's. Let's see. Well, we're still in the middle of a strike. Hopefully, we lowly actors don't have to strike as well. But if we do, just hope that we get paid correctly and aren't replaced by robots. That's what I would say.
But thank you, Galen. Thank you for coming on and talking about Coneheads with us.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Now, as we wrap up, I just want to say that if you want to find us, if you want to find our podcast, which you already have done, but if you want to find it again, because it's a game to you, our home base is Age of Radio.
Big time.
You can go to ageofradio.org/whatweretheythinking. You can also find us on any podcast app you want by searching for us there. We are on Facebook. We're on Twitter and Instagram at WWTT Podcast. Redbubble, TeePublic, same thing. WWTT Podcast. Patreon.com/WWTT Podcast. Lots of bonus episodes and other fun stuff there that you could sign up for. And other than that, though, that is pretty much it. So unless there's any questions from you, Nathan.
Oh, I've got a couple. And you're, I guess, the guy I would defer to for the Saturday Night Live info. Bit of a mega fan.
A bit, yeah.
So, in a movie,
kind of
about a sketch that was originally done in 1975. And in a movie where they got the original actors to play the characters.
Most of them.
Well, I mean the main ones, the
Dan and Jane.
Eldar and Dan and Jane.
Yep.
Right. And in the movie that had a who's who of 90s comedic talent involved. And they were only able to really write one joke and use it over and over again. Despite how allegedly talented Dan Aykroyd is in the realm of comedy, and they gave them $30 million to do it all with. I gotta know, man. What were they thinking?